Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hudson Institute. My name is Miles Yu. I'm the Senior Fellow and Director of the China Center here. And this is a very auspicious Friday. Thank you very much. And I think, Friday normally is a day off, but thank you for your interest in the event. Now, we all know that there has been a lot of tensions in Western Pacific. The focal point of those tensions is normally in Taiwan, occasionally in the Philippines and with Japan. The reason has been obvious. Obviously, China wants to absorb Taiwan. They call it the reunification or liberation. It's the same thing. Basically, China wants to take Taiwan, regardless of how Taiwanese people think. Now, we are going to talk about many aspects of this. One of the most important aspects of this dynamic is that the United States has committed itself to the self-defense of Taiwan through various long-standing diplomatic and strategic arrangements, not only with people of Taiwan and government of Taiwan, but also with the government of China. So there has been long-standing understanding that the United States absolutely opposes to use any force to settle the Taiwan issue. And so it has to be peaceful. Otherwise, the United States is going to intervene militarily if necessary. So that has been always the sort of the foundation of the understanding. Sometimes it's not clearly spelled out, but always in the back rock of the Americans' policy toward China and toward Taiwan. That is, we are aware that China has this claim that Taiwan is part of China, but we're not saying we agree with you or disagree with you. Secondly, no use of force for the Taiwan resolution. And thirdly, any settlement over the issue of Taiwan has to be agreed to by by people of Taiwan. So those are very fundamental elements of this. In light of this, and China basically resort to a different way of conquering Taiwan, absorbing Taiwan, that is through infiltration, through what we call the peaceful evolution, reverse from the Chinese perspective. This is very important, and it's not something that we can take it lightly. Mao Zedong once concisely summarized the reasons why Chinese Communist parties defeated the KMT in 1949. And he said there are three magic weapons. The number one weapon Chinese Communist Party is it was able to mobilize and was what they call the United Front. Number two is armed struggle, military. And number three is party construction. The reason why United Front is number one, because this is what Chinese Communist Party is very good at. United Front is a very broadly defined strategic approach. It is to conquer your adversary through means other than kinetic force, through elite capture, massive infiltration of your media space, and also create confusion among society. And particularly, it is very effective when your adversary is an open, free society, because openness is the strength of a country like Taiwan. But openness also is the number one vulnerability ready to be exploited by a country like China. So in this kind of environment, Taiwan was a prime target for Chinese communist infiltration. They control media, they control part of a lot of elite, and also control, most importantly, the key narratives over the issue of Taiwan, US policy, and many other related topics. So to combat what the people in Taiwan call the cognitive warfare, and Taiwanese government and Taiwanese people have done extraordinary things, and in collaboration with governments of like-minded principles and values. So today we have a very great opportunity to have one of the really important, extraordinary people on the front line, and he's one of the 2 judges in the entire Taipei district in charge specifically of espionage cases, national security cases. And it is actually pleasantly surprising to us that he's even allowed to talk about the kind of stuff in public forum. But here he is. Judge K.J. Xu is a not only brilliant scholar, and he's a very good judge, and he listened to him over the years about the jurisdiction laws, and I get a very good and free education. Is very beneficial to me. And he's also a very young person, and so he has a great leadership future in the society like Taiwan. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome him to the podium. He's going to make remarks, and after that, we have a conversation about some of the issues, ask him some questions, and I will leave as much time as possible for Q&A from you. Okay? Without further ado, please give a round of applause to Judge Xu.
Yeah, thank you, Miles, and thanks for coming for everyone here. Yeah, it's a very sunny Fridays. Yeah, so I think today the challenge from authoritarians to infiltrate democracies is not the only challenge. The core challenge will be how could the democracies to deal with, use the legal framework to deal with the authoritarians' infiltration. So today, I think my speech will have 3 parts. The first part will give you guys some data, the latest data from Taiwan's judiciaries. And second part, I will talk about a very popular new legal tool, ethnic unities and progress promotion law, effected by July 1st. Very recently, and we got the latest cases in Taiwan also. Miles and I will talking about this. In the third part, I will provide some kind of governance to provide for the democracy to have some suggestions and concrete recommendations in the end. So I have 3 parts. The first, before I release some latest data, I want to share with you, there are at least 3 major shifts from at least 10 years for Taiwan's espionage cases. The first one is from a very high value target to very low value information. In the past, people will think espionage all include like generals or very sensitive weapons or like a radar map. But now everything could be kind of an authoritarian target to steal with. For example, the military meal, like a lunch or routinely training schedules, that might be very, very cheap and easy as a hook for those kind of agents, the CCP agents, to use the website or some platform like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram to reach out those professional or officials in Taiwan. So that's a it's a huge change. The second one, I think, is from individual recruitment to network infiltration. In the past, in most of the espionage cases, we saw maybe 1, 2, 3 defendants. However, recently we saw like over 10 or like 15 or even 20 defendants, like a web in individual espionage cases. We have seen a lot of these cases. And the third change, I think, is from the criminal conduct to a legal gray zone action. We saw a lot of alumni associations or hometown associations, even in the research field. You might know, even in the U.S., when Mark Rubio was the Senate, he just announced a lot of a bill from 2018, used the system so-called research securities, because most of the time the CCP use like a J1 visa to have a lot of talent recruitment program. Somebody maybe know there's a Chiming programs or like a thousands talents program. So they use the legal way to test and to try the democratic system quite a lot. And I want to show you some data today. The number of people indicted by individuals in 2022 the number is 28. And in 2024 is 168 individual person indicted by the Taiwanese government, which involved in espionage cases. So we realize that is, and the latest data is in 2025, there's 101 persons indicted by the Taiwanese prosecution's office. And this might show some capability for Taiwanese government to realize the risk, because we saw the defendant increase, right? But also in the same time, I want to give you another data, which is a non-indictment disposition, which means most of the cases are non-indictment in the espionage case. So in 2022, there's 30 defendants, and 2024 is like 380. So in proportion terms, I think it's roughly like 40 or 50% people during the investigation process will indict after the investigation. And when it comes to the trial, only from the 80% to 90% will be guilty from all of those espionage cases. So in this number, you can see maybe we can identify some risk. However, it's not easy to catch them or to deal with those cumulative risk from the number. So I call this is like a legal fatigue, because even though we have the whole system, the legal system, but it's very difficult for us to identify or even prevent a lot of risk from those kind of espionage cases. Yeah, I want to give you an example. There's maybe 3 days ago, Iwata, the influencer was Chinese, and he transferred his nationality to Japanese, and now he's a Taiwanese in Taiwan. He got a hit after the speech. So, but when we look at this case, we have any specific legal tool to deal with this case. We only use the normal, maybe like kind of a harassment or harm, no so-called transnational repressions legal system in this. And I think this is, I want to explain there's three mismatch in this whole system. The first one is time mismatch, because everybody might know the CCP only can spend like 5 hours to send a ship to cut the undersea cable around the coast of Taiwan. So it's quite easy. But when democracy wants to defend in its institution, it might need like a month or year to debate, to have a hearing, and pass the law. Very, very slow. And the second one will be the evidence mismatch. I think that's a whole the democracy will face. For example, if we don't have very incomplete system like a security clearance or evidence disclose process on the trial, most of the intelligence, they were not willing to provide a lot of evidence or so-called info to the court. And so in the end, the courts have less evidence, and then they will make most of the case unguilty. And that become a vicious circle, because if most of the cases are unguilty, the intelligence will not provide more evidence or info on the trial. So that's evidence mismatch for the espionage protections issues. The third is authority mismatch. We all know the CCP use the private sector and the state sector, so all the power together to try or test democracies. And I think in most of the democracy, the authority is very divided. For example, in Taiwan, if like a POA send like a civil ship to Taiwan's coast, maybe the Coast Guard and the Navy will hesitate to, is you charged for this, or who's authority for this area, especially in some gray area like a 12-mile or 24 miles place. So that's quite difficult for democracy to deal with this risk. And we also see a lot of so-called transnational repressions recently. I give you some data also. According to Freedom House, between 2014 to 2024, there were 1,219 documented cases of physical transnational repressions worldwide. And China alone accounted for 272 cases. It's like 22%. It's ranked first all around the world. And also in other countries, we also have a lot of the case from 2016 to 2019. More than 600 Taiwanese nationals accused of crime. Most of them get involved for the fraud, organizational crime, was transferred directly to China on the trial. Maybe some people will think, yeah, those bad guys deserve it, but that's something very violate the sovereignties for this area. And in addition, in 2025, there's 221 Taiwanese nationals also deprived or restrict in personal liberties in China. That is 4 times compared with 2024. And I think that's accumulate over even 300 for this year. And also, not only for Taiwan, we also have the case in this May. In UK, we saw 2 former officials who helped the Foreign Intelligence Service to surveillance a Hong Kongese guy in UK. And also we saw the Acadia's cities in California. There's the former mayor called Alan Wang, also as an agent to help the CCP propaganda in the past. So we face a lot of threat. It's not easy to detect. Even more, CCP used the new legal tool in this July 1st. They have ethnic unity and the progress promotion law. This law is quite a new, but not very new. But I mean, this law also shows nervous from the CCP, because if we compare with the legal warfare for these 20 years, we might find in 2005 there's anti-secession law, only 10 articles and very simple. Yeah, they made an example that which is if Taiwan declared of independence, they will use the force to unify Taiwan. And this time they have like almost like 10 articles for this ethnic unit progress promotions law. And it's very interesting because everyone might realize there's a preamble on this law. Most of the time, only like a PRC constitutional law have preamble, but this law is very unique. They do have preamble and have a lot of narrative kind of warfare to teach the people in domestic and teach and announce some propaganda to the world. And most interesting is for the Article 20, there's an article show the parents, they require the parent to teach their children to love the CCP on the article. So it's very clear it's just pretending the ethnic unities, but on the paper, but in reality is the kind of narrative warfare for the CCP to progress their intent. And compare with the opinions for the punishments for Taiwanese independent diehard in 2024, that's a little bit similar, because in the past, people might think if I'm not support for the Taiwan independence, then we might be okay, right? But so the CCP surprised everyone, because when the ethnic unity law released, people realized in the Article 63, if you have divided or intentionally to separate the ethnic unity, you are commit a crime of CCP. And any individual and organizations aboard of the China, you will get about in. So I have a joke. All of you and I, now we are break of the law of the this ethnic unity law, because we are trying to separate the CCP and the Chinese in the Mandarin of China. So, I mean, this law is actually the CCP kidnap for all the Chinese cultures and the great motherland and the Chinese people, quite a lot. So for me, I think when we face this challenge, it's not easy, I know, but we still have some structure for the democracy to deal with. I have at least 3 structure for the whole democracy, not only for Taiwan. The first is the early warning system, because we might know it's not easy to detect of those cases. For example, the influencer just in this week, the influencer who hit by the Hong Kongese guy, and in 2 years ago, there's another people, they have the pen attack. They just flew to Taiwan in the midnight and use the pen to attack the victim's house. Then they just leave in the morning. So it's very quick movement in this. So if we can identify some people or organizations and it's a transnational platform, then we might identify some people is very suspicious and prevent another victims be harmed. The second, I think, is evidence conversion. Most of the time, we need a narrative, kind of a so-called narrative warfare, because in democracies, if we say one sentence is kind of freedom of speech, but if you can identify this guy have like 100-ish actions or speech, that might cross a line and accumulate some risk for the democracy. So we needed to identify this from the individual piece to the whole picture. The third layer is allies coordinations, because the US, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, and a lot of democratic allies, I think we should work together to share some informations and the data. Otherwise, we will be like an individual. It's very easy to attack. In the end, I think I will provide 3 concrete recommendations. The first one is the US-Taiwan should establish the counter-infiltration and legal warfare working group to share the experience. For example, as I know, in the US, they do have research securities in some university who have the funding from the federal. So if they want to get the funding, they must check any risks from the CCP, especially for the talent recruitment from the China. So, but if we don't have this, we might leak out a lot of potential threat. I'm not mean most of the Chinese are like kind of a spy, but we need to identify some people have a relationship with the CCP organization. The second one is democracy should build up the reporting and the verify platform, because most of the time you might know only very famous people they do get attention from the medias or other to the public. However, a lot of people, they are not celebrities. They still face the transnational repression. So we need some platform to provide for those people to report, and we need to verify. Otherwise, that will be another authoritarian, right? The third one is democracy should move from passive defense to lawfare transparency. When I do some research for ethnic unity and the progress promotion law, I found that there's a lot of contradiction. For example, for Article 15, in the periods of the article, it say they need to protect the majority of ethnic language, and in the end, it say CCP should standardize the teaching systems or the language system like that. So that is not a true respect for all the ethnic in the mainland China. So if we should do more kind of legal warfare to domestic of China, to tell the people, to wake them up like, hey, the CCP kidnap you guys. Because sometimes in Taiwan, people will say, oh, we need a, maybe some Taiwanese want like Taiwan independence and don't care about anything about the CCP. But the CCP do have a lot of contradiction, even by by like this law. So we should take advantage of this. The second thing is that we should have export more information like overseas asset from the CCP, the officials. That doesn't mean that we need more harassment. It's just a transparency to make the domestic Chinese to realize what happened to all of these truths. So I think the CCP has learned how to exploit at least 3 gaps between freedom and the securities, and the gap between intelligence and evidence, and the gap between domestic law and cross-border action. So now the question is never whether democracy can fight infiltration. The real question is whether democracy can govern infiltration within framework of the rule of law. I think Taiwan is not only the stand alone. Taiwan is a kind of a warning system provided for the U.S. and the democratic allies to deal with the Anstorian's infiltration. Yeah, that's my remark today. I'm looking forward to the Q&A section. Sorry for my kind of jet lag. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mark. Please. Okay. I often find out that jet lag actually sometimes works to my advantage. So at a different place, when you're in a semi-conscious state, big picture emerged. Yeah. Because it can help you eliminate the trivia, right? So I think that those were remarkable remarks, and from someone who is in the gutter fight, so to speak. Let me ask you a question. As a sitting judge in charge of espionage national security cases in Taipei, literally the hotbed of probably espionage and infiltration activities by a foreign country, what kind of legal tools or statutes you usually use? Walk us through the process, say a case that brought to your desk, and how did that emerge, and what kind of tools that you have, and what kind of statutes you have, or sometimes you don't have yet, but you wish you would have?
Yeah, I think it's quite important because people might only focus on some espionage cases from media, but that is kind of exposed cases. So I think we should transfer some attention from the export to ex-ante kind of administrative regulation. For example, in most of espionage cases, we are lacking of the evidence. But if administration do have some power to let some people to declare, expose, or their financial statements, that might be some deterrence for those people. If they get some like red capitals, they might be more cautious to do some elections, behaviors. So the one thing is for deterrence. The second is should be more transparency for the public to realize what these politicians or like these medias have their funding from. So that I think that is quite important. That's the one. I mean, the one ex-ante way. The second is in Taiwan, I think national security clearance also very matter, because you can imagine if we don't have like intact system, we will very struggling who is spy, right? We cannot identify or even have some process to make sure some very people in the very important positions to test land or have some background check. That will be very dangerous. We can only stand until some espionage cases happen. So before the punishment, we still have a lot of administrative method to deal with those kind of national security protection.
Yeah. In a free society, any free society like the United States and Taiwan, the line between national security and civil liberty sometimes can be a very tricky one. In the United States, we have some guardrails to make sure those lines were not crossed. For example, you talk about transparency. We have the FARA, Foreign Agent Registration mechanism. That is, if you're working on behalf of the foreign government, you have to register with the federal government so people can track you, right? That's transparency. Of course, when it comes to counterintelligence, and it's also very tricky, particularly involve surveillance. So in the United States, you have FISA, right? FISA basically is a legal tool for the court to give the investigative authorities to conduct a surveillance over foreign agents. So those are clearly defined, and I think it's constantly in the news over there. Do you have something similar in Taiwan?
Oh yeah, it's quite a little bit different. I think Taiwan is because FISA is during the process of investigation, right? But in Taiwan, we do have some investigations who the judge who decide the warrant, search warrants or kind of thing. But we don't have a national security search warrants specific judge like a FISA. Yeah, but we can deal with the whole case for espionage cases, which is founded by 2024 in Taiwan is a National Security Division in criminal court. Yeah, that's also a difference compared with the U.S. system.
Okay, yeah. My next question is, anybody who goes to Taiwan, you will see there are Taiwanese, there are people from mainland China. Some of them are as tourists. A lot of them were there to settle. This through marriage, through employment. And recently, if you watch Taiwan news, you will realize there's the issue of citizenship. There's a dual citizenship. Sometimes, dual citizens, people with dual citizenship sometimes can cause a lot of controversies over there. If you live in Taiwan, you have Taiwanese passport, but simultaneously you also have Chinese passport, and then this person might say something very much in line of Beijing, right? So, and then people figure out, hey, this is a dual citizenship. As a judge there, how do you deal with this dual citizenship issue when it comes to espionage trials? Do you pay more attention to people who hold the dual citizenship, or is citizenship a national security concern to the authorities, to the legal court system?
Yeah, I think most of the case is very clear, right? If that's a dual national identities from mainland China, then the Taiwan's, and I think most of the case that's already become decided. I mean, a lot of cases related to some sports from the friend of China. They do develop organization for the CCP. But you mean the dual nationalities cases? I think in the past we got legislators who have this issue, right? But
yeah, that's right.
But I think that is intentionally. Some people intentionally to use this figure to make Taiwanese people say, oh, hey, we will have a very kind of anti those group. So I mean, that's also an issue for our legal system, because by Taiwanese law, we don't have that much clear for those people who become the public servants by election. We only have some very clear law for if some people from China, they do have a pass exam and become the public servants, but not for the elections positions. So also a lack of I think is a gap of the institution.
Okay, great.
For the Taiwanese system.
Great. So let me ask you one last question before I turn to the audience for Q&A. Last question is, you mentioned, if I heard you correctly, that there are a large number of cases where you just sentence them to be deported, right? Rather than sent to serve a jail term in Taiwan. Obviously it's easier for people to understand if this person in the case who is convicted of this espionage crime is a foreign citizen. What if these people are like Taiwanese citizens, and do you convict them of espionage crime? Do you deport them back to China, or are they actually going to? Do China accept those things? Will China accept their spies, or how do you actually deport them to the country where they're not a citizen of?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting question. But I think we don't have that much case who is actually Chinese and to do espionage cases, because most of CCP's agents, they will take advantage from the third country or from the internet. So we are not very easy to catch them. And if we catch them, I think the CCP will only deny for we don't know this guy or something. And there's a very interesting cases in the U.S. in 2017 in I think it's I forgot to say, but that's the only one case who is the nationality is from China. They do catch in Belgium and transfer to the U.S. And I think it's in 2022. And this guy sentenced to 10 years around, yeah. But after 2 years, they got the criminal swap with the U.S. government, the CCP, and the China swapped this criminal. So that's quite interesting. During the time on the trial process, the CCP denied this guy is our spy. But when some exchange deals happens, they will say, hey, we need this guy. So it's quite interesting cases in the past. So they always use like double tricks to deal with espionage cases.
Yeah. Well, I have one question, but I would not ask it. Deal with large number of Chinese females marrying Taiwanese men, and that is very interesting. It's pretty fecund territory to have some kind of money honey traps over there. But I don't want to be generalized over there. But recently in the news, a lot of cases involving this particular demographic group, right? But let me just turn to the audience, see if you have any questions. Please raise your hand, identify yourself. Right here.
Oh, well, thanks so much.
Just a second, where's the microphone? Yeah.
Where's the microphone? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thanks so much. I'm Maya Maranto, recent graduate of Harvey Med College, and I was just wondering, so you mentioned that like a lot of the cases have gone from more like high profiles, like more like I don't know, like weapons and things like that, like military secrets in that way, so like more like kind of like low hanging fruit information. And so I'm curious if you could talk more about that shift, if I understood it correctly, like over what time frame and like why that occurred.
Yeah, I think maybe the benchmark is during the pandemic because the internet is very convenient for everyone to access, right? So in this case, I think when the city agents, they found that's a very easy way. They don't need like face-to-face exchange. They only use the internet. They can get some portfolios for their organizations. So and spend very little money. When they found that these people is very potential, they will transfer to like a high rank agents might in the future or during the process. So they are doing with this, and also they also take advantage for this kind of I call like a junk intelligence, because they can also use this as a street warfare, like public opinion warfare or psychological warfare. They say, hey, we even infiltrate your Ministry of Support, so surrender everyone. You have no chance to win this war. So that's one strategies for the street warfare in this trend, this change. They found that it's very useful for them to conduct with.
I'm going to abuse my right as a moderator here. How do you distinguish your court, which is a civilian court, from the military tribunal that deal with cases of military espionage?
Actually, after 2014, the military tribunal transferred the jurisdiction to a common court. So that's only the draft. Yeah, still pending, and I have a lot of discussion whether Taiwanese military tribunal should transfer again from the common court to ministry's organization. So we are doing. For me, I do two specific cases: national security and military cases. Yeah,
he can't handle the truth. All right. Yeah.
Good morning, Kyle Lamborn. So I've got two questions. One, what are the range of motivations behind the folks that are committing the espionage? And two, do all of them have official connections to the CCP, or are they connected to other organizations or are doing it for other reasons?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah. So the first question is concerning the defendants or those who are convicted of espionage. What are the range of motivations behind why they're committing espionage?
Okay.
And then two, concerning the defendants or the guilty, do they all have connections, official connections to the CCP, or some connected to some other organization or doing, committing espionage for some other reason?
Yeah, sure. I think for first question, the motivation is very diversified. Yeah, a lot of research for this. But I think recently, most of defendants, they leak out secrets or confidential document. They just treat this document as unimportant. So they say, hey, I can exchange money. I don't think that is so severe or so important. So most of the time, I think education matters. So how can the individual organization identify how important of the whole document or information in every democracy? I think that's also quite important. And also it's like a phishing, right? If they just hook you by a very cheap price, then you will be threatened from the CCP agent to coerce this guy in the government to provide more documents. So it's like a hook. So I think in the beginning, most of the CCP agent, they will use say, hey, you just give us some report or some open data. It's okay, anything is fine. I will give you like $100. So use this like a law of a hook to make those people to work for them. So that is the new kind of a new way. They are not only directly target for the confidential document only. They will use this way to collect more information. Yeah. It's also one of the second question.
Are all of these people, so you mentioned like a CCP handler,
Oh.
Are all of them working directly with the CCP, or
Yeah. So
are there other organizations or other reasons that people are doing
I think that's one of the evidence mismatch, as I mentioned, because it's not very easy to link an individual to the kind of state organization. But sometimes it's very obvious. For example, on the trial, we might use like a Baidu to search. Oh, this guy is belong to some organization. It's just right there. Not from the Google, but from Baidu, we can have some thing to identify it. I think, and recently I think they don't need to show their true identity most of the time because they only use money. No matter who you are, people will say, yeah, give me money, then I'll give you something. Yeah, so that's a different. Yeah, it's a new trend recently.
Okay, let's just try this one. Frank, please. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sang-Eun Lee from the Korea Economic Daily newspaper. And in South Korea, there are calls to regulate the big techs for the sake of protecting youth or people's mental health. But United States government has taken a critical stance towards such kind of effort of South Korean government, framing them as kind of censorship and pressure on big tech. And I think Taiwan has some kind of a similar problem because you have a much bigger, severe problem with these espionage actions. So in Taiwan's case, what approach is being taken toward the big tech platforms to take care of this issue?
Big tech.
Big tech. Sorry, let me drink.
I'll wait for a long answer.
It's a great way to pause and think of the answer to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a good question because, sometimes from the private sector, like a big tech, they don't think national interest is quite important. They only care about the business interest, right? So, and somehow in Taiwan, there's still lack of authority for the government to take charge or regulate or organize for those big tech. So how should we connect the private sectors and the government? In the future, I think quite important. Maybe liaison systems matters to communicate and report because in democracies we don't like the CCP to send some people to do the political warfare in the individual company, right? But sometimes I think a government should have a routinely report to tell those big tech what happens, what the latest threat or the method to use. So in the future, still have a lot of work to do. It's like a blue ocean because it's kind of a new threat, right? Yeah, so that's my answer. Yeah, I agree. It's very important and difficult.
Is there any standing regulation against this issue, espionage problem, and to censor the information in the big tech of the United States?
You mean Taiwan and the U.S.? In Taiwan, yes. We do have some people who focus in different departments to do this.
Let me just follow up with that question. I think it's a very, very important question. Thank you for asking this. For example, let me just be very specific. Taiwan, the crown jewel of Taiwan's technology, Taiwanese pride, is TSMC. TSMC has 2 plants inside China. One's in Nanjing, one's in Shanghai. Modern commerce requires free flow of information. That basically could contradict with this national security concern, because protection of trade secrets or technology, all those things has to be somehow be on the table, right? How does Taiwanese government, a Taiwanese company, deal with this possible transfer of technology of highest degree from, say, TSMC to Chinese plant? Because it's one company, after all, and not to be exploited by the Chinese government. Is there any kind of a legal issue to government intervention in this kind of a business international operation of the global company?
Yeah, I think it's hard, because the CCP always use like a third company or third country from like ASEAN or other place, and also China also helped Russia for like not like a high-end chips to help Russia to kind of a war in Ukraine. And that's the one thing. You cannot identify any companies around the world say, hey, you cannot transfer. So, I mean, export controls still matter. And in Taiwan, we really kind of a lack of this system. I will give you guys one example. The one potential risk will from company, but also, for example, the CCP, mostly they want like A800s or H20s, H800s GPU. They just transfer by individual. So how could you identify those individuals to use like a checking luggage or the mail to transfer to China? So we need a more kind of intelligence sharings and or so-called platform for all the individual and organization, or even like a transnational, for the government to identify all the potential risk for that. And also in Taiwan, sometimes maybe the federal law enforcement, they can just check the luggage or the mail to check or to conduct the law enforcement of export control. But in Taiwan, we still lack a lot of laws. Say we cannot. For example, if we have intelligence from the U.S. government, and our law enforcement will say we don't have authority to check or even open for some specific the mail. So I think a legal framework still matters for the U.S. and its allies.
Yeah, I think the reason that this is such a important issue is because not just because of the distribution process. We're talking about sales of finished chips. We're talking about the manufacturing process of the high-end products, right? So that requires access to specific trade secrets, the technological know-how, and the technological transfer. So it's not, you don't have to force China to do it, but they're going to do it automatically. So this is why export control has to be very specific. It's not just about sale of finished products. China may can just reverse engineer it, but in the process itself, we have this taking a great risk. It's not just TSMC. Apple has the same problem, right? A lot of high-end products with the high technological components are made in China by the Chinese engineers, a lot of them. And it would be naive for anyone to think that China is not a set eye on that. So anyway, yeah, let's, the one over there, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nora. I'm a student at UC Berkeley, and I have a broader national security question for you. In this past week, the CCP has tested their long-range ballistic missiles in the Indo-Pacific, and at the same time, it's increasingly risky for the United States and Taiwan to retaliate because, as you mentioned, we rely so much economically on China from trade. So I'm curious, Are there any legal tools or developments that could protect us from this risk moving forward? And is that something that comes in hand with your first recommendation of investigating more into the legal statutes?
So you want the judge from Taiwan to outlaw China's missile firing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I try my best. Yeah, I'm a military corps. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you ask like a big framework question, and I use a big framework to answer to you as well. Yeah, so I mean, sometimes when we face those threat, we need to collaborate to enhance our mutual confidence. So maybe somehow we need a more kind of talk or trade 1.5 activities, or like we stand together to condemn something. But I know that's not very useful in reality. But somehow if we have the same consensus, maybe we can deter something. Yeah, that's, I think, yeah. I'm not a military effort.
Deterrence is actually very, very key here. I mean, you don't expect China will follow some kind of international law. I mean, there was a 2016 ruling by a legal court out of the heck about China's claim in the South China Sea. Basically, it says China's claim is totally unlawful. China doesn't care about that. They carry on as if they would be the author of any law they want. I mean, about test firing, that's a very interesting thing, because there are some international regimes governing nuclear non-proliferation. There's also the issue of lawful prior notification of countries affected. There are also the particular security measures to be taken, right? For example, you have to take care about the civil aviation safety and fishing safety. All the things China basically, they don't care much about that. So this is basically is a behavior of a rogue regime that basically is, in addition to law, we must use other means to change the behavior, and that means basically the most effective way is deterrence. Okay, this corner is underrepresented, so please.
Thank you. My name is Okuma from Japan's Kyoto News. So you said they use the legal way to try the democratic system. So how do you think Taiwan should respond effectively to such a complex issue in coordination with like-minded countries like the United States or Japan? Thank you.
Oh, that's also a big question for yeah. I think Taiwan can provide some leading case and some experience because everybody might know Japan also have some national security reform this year for National Intelligence Bureau and the anti-espionage bill recently. So I think we can provide some what we don't have and what we have to exchange the institution, and sometimes I think also record to the previous question, narrative also matters. If we expose more cases, people will think, coordinated warfare or transnational repression exists, not only for the political warfare between the politicians. So more talk and more expose for the real things to the public, because I think everyone kind of care about this issue. So you might think it's like a common sense, but to the public, they just don't care. They think, we only need to earn money or something. So if we have more narrative for the public, it's quite a useful, especially for in Taiwan, because Taiwan's society is very divided, and the city always take advantage for this. Even for this time, the influencers hit by the Hongkongese guy in this week, I think they intentionally use this guy as the first case after the ethnic unity law effect by July 1st, because this guy is from China and was Japanese and now is Taiwanese, and speak a lot of statements related to kind of the pro-Taiwan's statement. So yeah, so in the future, the narrative from the public sectors or private sectors still matters. We need to stand together and announce to the public.
Is anybody familiar with the case he's referring to? So there is a gentleman of Japanese or descendant, but he's now Taiwanese citizen. His name is Akio Yaita. He Shibai Minfu. He was giving a talk last week in Taichung. There is a gentleman from Hong Kong, and he walked up to him and swung his big, just hit him in the face, causing physical damage, literally. And so this is right in the aftermath of the Chinese ethnic unity law taking effect just days earlier. So the judge was saying that this might be a case when China wants to enforce that kind of a law. In other words, ethnic unity law is one of the most outrageously ridiculous, stupid law. Basically says anybody who say anything or do anything anywhere in the world that cause the Chinese ethnic unity, basically meaning the kind of a unitary system under Communist Party, and it will be prosecuted by this law. So this is a transnational repression in action. So this is what the judge was talking about. And I think to follow up with his point, my personal experience tells you that whatever is going on in Taiwan would have enormous implication to the rest of the world. Because China is not just going after Taiwan, it's going after everybody else. So Taiwan is the front line. When the COVID hit, I was in the government at the time. We got the first and the best medical intelligence from Taiwan. They were really, really good, right? They were among the first. They were the first country that see the seriousness of this and implemented travel ban, all kind of stuff. We immediately followed Taiwan's example. And you know what? China actually intimidated Taiwan on a daily and weekly basis. And they showed their toys over there and surrounding Taiwan with weapons. That gave American military and intelligence establishment a great opportunity to observe their patterns of operation, their frequencies, and from what I have known, we're not really impressed. Yeah. Over there, yeah. The lady on the last row, yes, please.
I'm Gabriella Hartledge. I'm a Bridge to Asia Fellow at the National Bureau of Asian Research. And I believe earlier you mentioned infiltration through research institutions and alumni organizations. Could you go into more detail about what that looks like and how you deal with those kind of gray zone actions?
That's quite popular already all around the world. And in Taiwan, they also do like a kind of free trip. Took some people go back to China and use these organizations to say, hey, we should have a friendship with some specific cities in mainland of China. And sometimes they only took them to mainland of China with non-statements related to elections or some preference. So it's not very easy to say, hey, you are violate national security laws or like anti-infiltration law. So they just to do this. But you can imagine those group of people, they will have some preference for some specific candidates in the elections. So how could those people in the middle of China, most of the organizations, they just hide behind the CCP organization. They will use various indirect connections for them. So it's not very easy to identify both of sides. In the China side, not easy to connect with the organization to the domestic organization. And for the Taiwan side, it's not easy to spot, say, these people cross the line for national security. But these behaviors do influence the elections every time in Taiwan. So how could the Taiwanese government to deal with this? I think it's very, very difficult. And it's very political issue. People will say, oh, you had China, so you need to ban people to go to China. So we got a lot of trouble for this. So, I mean, to figure out, to solve this potential threat, I think the best way is to use the administrative kind of a list. Not a kind of blacklist, but a risk list to tell people, or maybe this organization have too close to the CCP organizations, and if the administrators have some info,
maybe in the future, if those organizations cross the legal line, it's easier for them to do investigation. So that's what I mean. The previous administration's method even better than the later punishment.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Over the gentleman over there. Next.
Thanks. Miles, you were in charge of COVID after you started working for the government.
I was in charge of investigating the origin of COVID in the initial effort of government. That's when I was at the State Department, yes.
So C-SPAN had a guy on Washington Journal a couple of days ago, James Robbins. He said Taiwan can make themselves more of a porcupine with germ warfare and drones. So the Chinese have lots of the labs that synthesize DNA and RNA. So Big Pharma defers to them. So there was censorship in the United States, and there still is. It's like the Fauci Unification Church. That you have to say that didn't come from a lab, but the guy who had the debate was a zoologist, Jeremy Farrar. He, instead of the CDC.
Do you have a question? We are running out of time.
Okay, so how do you see the arms race for bioweapons and countermeasures, and with China hiring a lot of scientists? It used to be you couldn't release certain books. Now they just hire the scientists to write the books.
Yeah, because that's a very, very long question, and let's just give you a very brief answer to that question. Apparently, it's direct to me. Biomedical research is necessary only for the benefits of mankind, right? To cure illness and to prevent the pandemic. Unfortunately, in the country of China, whenever you have any advance in biomedical research, the military will immediately take over. They see the potency, the utility of those viral research, and this is the case of the COVID. The lesson we have to learn from this. The Chinese military biological weapon development is really scary. Anybody who cares about the future of mankind should really, really pay attention to this. I'll just say that. And today, we have the great opportunity to have discussions with the gentleman who is in the driver's seat against the Chinese infiltration in Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is not just one particular region of regional significance. It has global significance. So hopefully, when we deal with Taiwan, deal with the Chinese communist infiltration issue, espionage issues over there, hopefully we all learn from the cases in Taiwan, as we have, in many cases right now, learn from that. We learn from each other, I should say. Thank you very much. I would like particularly thank my program manager, Colin there, and then my three wonderful interns, summer interns, Elliot, Sophie, and Richard. And thank you very much, and thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you.